This episode brought to you by GoreBox, the only monthly subscription box that gives horror fans what they want. Actual gore. When you sign up, you will receive a box each month filled to the brim with officially licensed collectibles celebrating the two-term Vice President Al Gore. The fellas down at GoreBox have the inside scoop on where to find the latest hard-to-find climate change literature and merchandise. They aim to provide you with a unique monthly experience through their boxes, which are curated specifically for Al Gore fans. No Mike Pence, no Spiro Agnew, just Al Gore. Sign up today for yourself or surprise a friend with a monthly subscription. That's GoreBox. Sign up today at algore.com. That's ALGORE.com. Use promo code HMT at checkout to receive a tipper bonus. Hello and welcome to Horror Movie Talk.
An opinionated and accidentally funny horror movie review show. Go, 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 go.
I just had to stroll through the scraggly woods.
He had no face!
Horror!
Sabrina, don't just stare at it, eat it.
New theatrical releases always get priority.
But we also review older horror movies, both good and horrible.
Wow, that didn't sound good.
Oh, what is that? Was it Celebrate that they played? Celebrate good times. Come on. I will. Well, hello and welcome to Horror Movie Talk. I'm Bryce Hanson. I hold a PhD in spoopology. And across from me sits
David Day. I am the foremost expert in scare meow meows.
So, before we start, we just want to give a shout out to our awesome community. This is the cool thing about Horror Movie Talk podcast, which you might not know. We have the best community of any podcast you've ever listened to. So join us at our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups horror movie talk.
Or just
probably.
search for it.
Yeah.
It really is the best. We're constantly talking on there. People give away movies. It's nice. It's a nice place. It's a good positive place to be in an otherwise barren desert of negativity and shit eaters.
Right. If you want to check out our other social media as well, the best way to go is to go to our website at horrormovietalk.com. There we have links to all the things. We post new episodes every Wednesday, so if you like us, subscribe, and if you really want to help out and get us visible to other people, leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts. If you want to be part of the show, call 682-253-4468, and we might play your voicemail on a future episode. We've got a great show today.
Oh, yay, David! Yay!
Long awaited. This is one of those movies that I've threatened David with because I know he hates the idea of watching it. This and Human Centipede. Today we're going to be talking about Hostel.
Yeah.
Eli Roth's 2005?
Yeah.
Horror movie.
I think it's 5. It's either 5 or 6.
I think it's either 5 or 4.
You're thinking of Saw.
We'll start out by giving a brief review on our score for the movie. We score on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being a miserable dredge where it makes you angry, 5 being an average film that hits all the expected marks, and 10 being so good it transcends genre boundaries. After we give our score, we'll talk about spoilers and take a deeper dive into what we liked and hated about the film. And then later on, kind of a short episode, we're just going to be doing taglines.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about this movie because like you said, you've been threatening me with this for a long time, which I don't appreciate. Doesn't seem like something a friend would do.
See, when I mentioned it, we were this is back in like carpool days. I mentioned it, said like, it's a great movie. And you're like, no, because you're really not into like the torture porn that was popular in like the whole decade of mid 2000s to 2000 teens, and you were very averse to seeing this movie, and I was like, man, you gotta see it. So I got you to see it.
Yeah. Well, you made me.
We can thrust on each other any horror movie we want, really, because we each choose Which, would there be a movie that you think like you just would not watch? You just say no?
It sounds like I would have difficulty actually watching Human Centipede 2.
Right.
I don't know. There's probably not many that I wouldn't start watching.
I think I always can shift the gears. Like, if I'm feeling into it or engaged or empathetic, if it gets to a point where it's super disturbing, I can just always switch to, this is not real. This is a movie. All of that is makeup.
Right.
And it doesn't bother me. I start thinking of it in terms of like artistry, but that's not really what I want either.
Right.
I want to actually be engaged and like experiencing the movie. Anyways, we saw Hostel and it was as great as I remember it. Here is the trailer. I'm not gonna make you listen to the whole trailer because it's just music and icky sounds.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, there's no like actual dialogue in it. So, you can go to YouTube and watch the trailer if you really want to. I'm not gonna make you listen to 2 minutes of spooky, goopy sounds. Hostel can be found with ads for free on Peacock. I'm sure David has plenty to say about this. And wherever you can rent movies, you can find it in lots of different places.
Yeah, for some reason, like, I know what Peacock is now. Like, I can get to it on my phone. I didn't want to watch it on my phone. Wanted to watch it on my TV, but I use a Fire Stick. And my other TV is a smart TV, and it doesn't support all kinds of apps that are just normal, like Disney Plus. It just...
What kind of smart TV is it?
I can't recall. It's an early-ish smart TV.
Okay.
So anyway, so I tried to get, I could get the NBC, quote unquote NBC app on my Fire Stick. Peacock app does not exist, at least for me, in the App Store in the Fire Stick, and I could not fucking. And it was so goddamn annoying because in the NBC app there was a promo section titled Peacock. And so I would go to this section, there was no search feature. And every time I typed in Hostel, I just got a bunch of reality TV show clips thrown at me. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? And so literally the only way to watch it on my particular Fire Stick, for some reason, was to rent it on Amazon for $4. So that's what I did.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's really annoying about streaming platforms. Like the random like pissing matches that these giant corporations get for each other. Like,
get in with themselves. NBC couldn't. I had the NBC app, but it wasn't on the NBC app. It was on the NBC Peacock app.
Yeah, so
it's fucking itself.
It's like these negotiations where, oh, you can't get HBO Go on PlayStation because negotiations fell through for, whatever platform licenses that they need to do, or on Amazon, they're like, well, fuck no, we're not going to put anything from Google, we're not going to put YouTube stuff on here because they're a competitor.
It's annoying.
Yeah, it's, anyways, I was able to figure, probably the best decision we made when we bought our TV was to choose based on, how user-friendly the interface was for like the smart TV stuff. I'll tell you what, Roku is great. If you find a smart TV with like Roku on it, just do that.
I gotta say, normally the Fire Stick is very adequate. Very, very adequate.
I hate Amazon's user interface on Amazon Fire. It's the worst out of all of them. It's impressively bad.
Have you tried it lately? Has it been many years?
It's been a while, but I mean, it's like, I go on Amazon Prime on Roku.
It's much worse. It's much worse on Amazon on the web browser.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, like little things. Like if you're watching a season or like a TV show, it's very hard to find like the season or the next season. Like they're different listings. Like you have to go to like related to this is
Wrong.
season 2.
Wrong.
I don't know, that's the way it used to be.
Yeah.
It was really annoying.
It did used to be very annoying.
Anyways, enough about technology. Hostel is about a college student, Josh, is a good student and a nice guy, albeit a little predictable. He is unceremoniously dumped by his whorish girlfriend. Among the people he turns to in his hour of despair is his Icelandic pal, Ollie, and American buddy, Paxton. Josh, impulsively, for a change, decides to backpack through Europe with his friends. As the four try to make their way to Bratislava, they run into a few obstacles and a few adventures. So that previous paragraph was based off of Synopsis for Eurotrip.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
I just basically edited a lot of stuff in Eurotrip.
Yeah, no, that's accurate.
This movie, along with the previous year's Saw, ushered in a renaissance of torture porn horror movies that dominated the mid-2000s to 20-teens. While there is a lot of just awful and cliche-prone movies that come after, Hostel stands as a unique premise and genre-mixing film that holds up today. This is a slow-burn horror movie that doesn't put all its cards on the table until about halfway into the film. It feels like a buddy road trip comedy for the entire first half, then abruptly goes into graphic and brutal gore in the last half.
Yeah.
Well, it's impressive.
It is impressive, the switch, the swap. And it's one of Eli Roth's things, you know?
Yeah.
He goes hard in the paint. When it's time to go, he's like, fuck it, this is a horror movie.
Right. It's definitely exploitative, from the generous heaping of bare tits to the sinkfuls of mangled limbs. It's not purporting to be high art. However, in this lane of horror films, it does take extra care in providing a framework for these exploitative elements to exist believably. I mean, we just reviewed My Bloody Valentine, which is, you know, your generic 80s slasher. And just outside of the kills, and because the slashers are an exploitative movie. It's like, you're just there to see creative kills.
By its nature.
I mean, you want to see slashes. And the framework in which they put that is what makes the movies different, because like, who cares if it's Jason or if it's Freddy Krueger or if it's Michael Myers?
Oh, a lot of people care. Very
the
much.
slashing. Like,
what is it? What are you trying to get yourself into?
There's minor. I mean, honestly, like Friday the 13th steals whole cloth from Halloween. Like a lot of the kills, it's like, oh, that is exactly the same as the way they did it, and so it's kind of incidental who's doing it. And then the framework is like, okay, what's the story around this? Or who are the people that are going to be the victims?
That's why I like Child's Play so much.
Right.
It's different.
Right. And this one is similarly exploitative. It's about seeing, you know, some gore and torture in the end, you know. And the framework they provide around it is like, it's a whole movie in itself, you know?
Yeah.
So it just goes the extra mile.
This is beyond slasher. I mean, this
is different.
This is next level brutality.
Yeah.
And really intentionally just kind of taking your face and like pushing it into the toilet.
Right.
You know?
Yes.
It's very intensely supposed to be unsettling for you.
Right. But even when I'm watching it, I realize like, it's not as bad as I remember it in terms of like...
It's not nearly as bad as what I had imagined.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like Pulp Fiction, where they talk about how violent it is.
Yeah.
It's like, if you watch Pulp Fiction, there's literally no violence on screen. It's all implied.
And you're so desensitized.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I've seen the internet.
Right.
For 25 or 30 years. Like,
so I'm unapologetic about loving this movie. It goes all the way with every idea it approaches. It goes 100%. Seeing this as a single young male is probably the best way to view it, because it really preys on your basest desires and fears, which is, you know, getting pussy. And then dying, I guess.
Man, you know, you said later in the show we have a... What's the segment we're doing at the end of this?
Taglines.
Yeah, you almost said one of my taglines.
So I give it a score of 10 out of 10. This is like one of my favorite horror movies. This is one where I watched it and immediately just appreciated it for what it was. I was like, this is actually great. I think the premise is, it's one of those things with horror movies. It's hard to appreciate the unique premises of like, well, wait a minute, this hasn't really been done before, of specifically focusing on just super hot women luring in men to be tortured like as a honeypot. Like the honeypot in horror is not, I can't think of a lot of examples of it. And this is pretty specific with the ideas that it uses. I don't feel has been done before.
It's interesting. It's interesting because it's exploitative in a subversive way.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's like normally you show your tits and then you get killed.
Right.
You know, it's instead of you show your tits and then
you kill.
They kill you. You get killed because you saw the tits.
Right.
But at this point, we're just splitting hairs.
They're like poison tits.
I will say they were the nicest tits I've seen in any movie, including pornos.
Yeah,
these young ladies are exceptionally good looking.
I mean, you'll be if your question is,
Can I see one titty?
Yes.
Oh, yay, David!
yes
yay.
is the answer. Like it's plentiful.
I'll say I had built this movie up in my head quite a bit. I'd heard a lot about, you know, you do certain things with yourself.
Right.
Right? You go, I'm this kind of guy. I don't like this kind of thing.
Right.
I do like that kind of thing. I'm a man's man, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right,
you
right.
build an ego for yourself and then you try and stay true to it. Because what would you be if not for all the things that you base your ego on, right? So coming into this, I had a decent amount of just
Dread.
well, not dread so much as like, well, here it goes. I'm gonna
I guess I got to watch this bullshit
this
now.
despot bullshit now. And you know, I've always been a fan of Cabin Fever.
Uh-huh.
I saw it in theaters and was blown away by the sense of humor and the levels of depravity that it was willing to go to, while also maintaining like a certain level of class somehow.
Uh-huh.
But Eli Roth is not a classy man, and he makes no aspersions to being a classy man.
Right.
And his movies are all very Eli Rothy.
Right.
If you're not familiar with Eli Roth, he is the Bear Jew from Inglourious Bastards. He's the man who busts Nazis' heads open as a Jewish man from the Bronx or something like that, much like our Irish friend Rojo, who's also from the Bronx. And so this was a very Eli Rothy movie, and I had a good time with it. A pretty good time. It was definitely uncomfortable where it was supposed to be uncomfortable.
Right.
I did not enjoy the extreme amount of discomfort that the movie intends to give you.
Uh-huh.
But I wasn't supposed to.
Uh-huh.
And it wasn't nearly what I thought it was going to be.
Right.
To be honest with you, a lot of the violence is implied. And there's so much focus on the part of the movie that I enjoy the most about horror movies, which is the start. The light and breezy, like, we're really, really going to pad you into this.
Right.
Like, we're going to put you in a nice padded room, and it's going to be frilly and frothy, and it's going to be fun. And there's so much focus on that throughout, even into the last act.
Yeah.
It really kind of, the last act just starts to dip you into the insanity very, very heavily.
Right.
At the very end.
Right.
So, it was not, I said to myself, I'm not a gore porn kind of guy.
Right.
But now I'm starting to question whether gore porn actually exists in the way that I thought it did.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I watched this movie and I was like, I can't see how David couldn't love this. Like, it felt like pretty well into your lane.
I really enjoy movies like, I've said this before, RoboCop 2 is one of my favorites, and it has parts just like this movie that are intended to make you very squeamish. I did watch Guinea Pig 2, Flower of Flesh and Blood this week.
Okay.
Which is literally a gore porn movie. It's just, the whole movie is just a man cutting up a woman and torturing her. That's the movie. And Charlie Sheen in 85 or 6 when this movie came out, he called the police when he watched it. Because he was like, somebody is hurt somewhere.
And he was incredibly high on coke, probably.
Maybe, but it's such a one-trick pony though that it's also not disturbing, you know, because it's just torture. There's no storyline at all. Nothing. Right. No, nothing. Right. Anyway, so my point is, I don't know that anything is really all that disturbing to me now.
Right.
But Hostel jumps through all the hoops that it ought to achieve and earn what it does to you.
Right.
It's a good movie. I wouldn't say I loved Hostel, but I wouldn't say it's a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination. You gave this a 10 out of 10
I gave
already.
it a 10 out of 10. I love it.
Yeah, I'd say this sits around an 8 for enjoyment factor for me. I would probably watch it again.
Yeah.
If for nothing else other than those beautiful women.
I'm almost curious of how bad they get in the sequels, because there's a lot of Hostel sequels.
Is there?
Yeah. Well, I know Eli Roth made 2 at least, but when I was Googling it, or when I was on the IMDb, it seemed like there was like a whole bevy of sequels.
I'll chase this down right now. Let's see what. Anyway, you
so
go
I'm
ahead.
I'm glad that you liked it. I'm glad that you didn't like lock up and be like, oh, this is bullshit. Like,
well, I mean, I don't think I don't think I would do that because I just generally don't. I mean,
right?
That's not my mode.
I don't think like you can. It's like impossible to hate that first half of just like. This is such a buddy, like, ridiculous movie.
Yeah.
It's so of its time.
It felt kind of wrong turn-like at the start.
Yeah, and it's elevated.
Yeah.
To where it's like, you know, if you watch one of these kind of sex comedy movies in the 2000s or late 90s, like American Pie or something like that, it still doesn't show as much tits as this one does. Like, yeah, it goes hard.
And Eli Roth kind of, he's a shock jockey, right? Like his deal, like he's been called a bro, you know, like and it's intentionally subversive in a lot of different ways, like casual racism, homophobia, misogyny, and that's all part of the package. Like that's what you're getting into with Eli Roth.
Right.
And he's going to poke at it because he knows it makes you uncomfortable, probably.
But also it's kind of the time.
It is.
Like that kind of casual in fiction, in movies, like they kind of underlined it more. Mm-hmm. Like, oh yeah, straight white guys don't like gays.
Right.
Like,
and it's, and whether, and how much truth that comes with that statement, it doesn't matter because that's the joke.
Right.
You know.
So anyways, let's talk briefly about our Patreon. If you're listening to this episode, you could have listened to it probably a little earlier if you sign up to be a patron, because we drop them like as soon as they're edited. At a certain tier. Also, you can get in on influencing what movies we watch by nominating and voting for one movie a month as a group of patrons. So check out our Patreon at patreon.com/horrormovietalk. There's going to be a tier perks that you'll like, or just if you like the idea of supporting us. It literally is one of the most supportive things you can do.
Yeah,
for
for sure.
podcast.
And if you want to rep our brand, you can head on over to horrormovietalk.com/shop and, get a shirt for you or a loved one who likes Horror Movie Talk. Make a present out of it. Get a sticker which were mostly all made by our hard fucking artist, Dustin Goebel.
Mm-hmm.
And a little bit of that will go to Dustin.
Yeah. Speaking of Dustin, you can find him on Instagram at dgoebel00. That's at DGOEBEL00. And you can definitely reach out to him for commissions. And he's done some awesome commissions for a lot of our fans. Like you can send him a picture of like your loved one and say like, hey, could you combine her with Freddy Krueger or something like that? And he'll do it. It's a really unique gift if you're looking for that. But also he does portraiture and stuff. He just posted kind of a compilation of the last several months of artwork that he's done for HMT, and they're all portraits. I think he's been going for kind of a theme the last couple months, and altogether it looks awesome. It's really impressive. So
yeah, and you can browse through his Instagram and see like different phases in his artistic journey. My favorite artistic mode that Dustin has. One time he was just drawing just dicks, and there's this big veiny triumphant bastard that he was working on, and it was great. So you can go check out his dick phase. And it's a good phase.
If you want to call the show, call 682-253-4468, and you might hear yourself on a future episode. Thanks again for listening. Let's get into spoilers. Spoilers. Woo. Okay, so first thing that hops out at you is that it's produced by Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah, they really push that in your face. They're like, huh?
What do you think of this?
Quentin Tarantino.
So the story behind it is Quentin Tarantino saw Cabin Fever, and he was Fever, and he was a big fan of Eli Roth, and I guess they talked to each other because Eli Roth is a writer-director too, and I think Tarantino really respects anyone that writes and directs.
Yeah, so actually, funny you should mention it. Hostel 3, Hostel 2, I believe Eli Roth directed and wrote. But Hostel 3, he did not direct. A man named Scott Spiegel directed that, but Eli wrote it.
Right. So, I guess I saw some interviews, and Eli Roth talked about how, he was talking with Quentin, and he'd get these offers for studio pictures, and he'd be like, he'd keep turning them down because he's not excited. He'd rather do his own thing, and he asked Quentin if he was doing the right thing, and Quentin's like, yeah, man, just make your own movies. Like, do what you want. And Eli mentioned kind of the idea for Hostel, and Quentin was like, that's awesome. You have to make that movie. That's a fantastic idea. And so, like, Eli Roth sat down, and in a couple weeks he wrote up Hostel, and Quentin Tarantino gave some input. Like, I guess he said something to the effect of, when he was reviewing the script, Tarantino would like point out stuff. It was like, no, that only exists in movies. That'll bring people out. Like, that's not how a normal person would react to that. And so he did a couple tweaks, and yeah, I mean, it does not feel like a Tarantino movie. Like, no. It doesn't have his stink on it or anything, but it's a very high quality movie that you can tell that the people that made it and people that were involved care about movies and about telling a story well. So that was his involvement, which I thought was interesting.
I don't want to necessarily say that there's some sort of stank on it. That's, I mean, first of all, it's just the most Eli Rothy movie you've ever seen, but there's some sort of
I think the
veneer of cheapness that the whole thing has, that a Tarantino movie wouldn't. But it's It's almost Eli Roth's calling card. It's like
Yeah.
I wish I could put this into words better. I know. I'm
the other
failing.
thing that feels kind of Tarantino, and I think is what why they like each other so much, those two directors, is that it mixes genres, and it borrows heavily from other genre movies.
Yes.
And so, Tarantino is very open about saying, like, yeah, I do that, and I enjoy that. And he talks about how one of his favorite movies was Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, because it's combining two of his favorite genres of comedy and horror. So so he sees how you can use these genre tropes to play against each other, and you can see where one begins and one ends.
Yeah.
Like, this is the Abbott and Costello part, but when they bring the monsters on, like, the monsters don't break character.
Right.
They're 100% universal monsters.
Right.
Put in this situation. So it's similar to this, where it's like, yeah, it's a buddy sex comedy movie, and it's 100% that, and you can define where that ends. Right. Or where it starts transitioning into, this is a horror movie.
Or, yeah, so the movie that comes to mind for me when you're talking about this is Ernest Scared Stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an Ernest movie.
Right.
But also, damn. Fucking snot goblins.
So, yeah, that's kind of interesting. So, yeah, it starts out, it's very much like this buddy movie with ugly Americans in
Rip
Europe.
Ernest, by the way. He died just a couple
did he really?
months ago, I think. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, sad.
What about Vern?
Huh?
He was always talking to Vern.
Yeah. I don't remember.
Is Vern dead?
I don't.
Oh, never mind.
Vern was a character that he played as well, right? He played a lot of characters.
No, Ernest would be...
Vern?
He would talk off camera to Vern. Like, that was part of the character of Ernest.
It's been so long.
Okay.
I can't recall.
Anyways, we're dating ourselves.
You guys like Pee Wee Herman?
So, yeah, they're very ugly American stereotype of loud, not respecting rules. Be like, speak American, motherfucker.
It's a good American impression.
And it's fun. This first half of the movie is really fun. They're making fun of fanny packs. They're
doing the things that I would want to do.
Yeah.
They go to Amsterdam.
Go to red light district.
They get real high, and then they walk through the red light district and look at boobies. And they're like, these boobies are great. Whoa, but look at these boobies over here. It's like, yeah, it sounds like a good time. It does.
Yeah. One of the, what was it? The line, I can't remember the context of this line, but I remember the Josh character, which is pretty awkward as fuck throughout the entire movie. He mentions the clitoris or something.
The mythical clitoris.
And he's like, because he's talking to foreign women, so he's not sure if they're understanding him. What he goes, women have it?
He's talking to a dude. He's talking to the dude who honeypots him.
Oh, I can't remember the context. I just remember I love that line of like, the clitoris. What, women have it?
Would you, Bryce the ex-Mormon, go to Amsterdam, smoke pot, and then walk through the red light district as these young men did?
Well, I'd be with my wife. I could see doing marijuana. And yeah, I could see walking through the red light district.
Sure.
It'd feel weird not to. Like, that's like a
that's what you explained to her.
Like,
it would be weird if we didn't. Really, everyone would judge us.
I wouldn't partake, but yeah, I'd want to go see it. Be like, oh no, we can't go to Carnival in Rio. They're topless, some of them.
Well, you could pick me one out and buy me a hooker, and I could. Well, no, I guess I'd be there with my wife as well. Jeez. Yeah, this movie, I really lived vicariously through this movie while Carrie was asleep on the couch.
Right. Yeah. I mean, but it very, very much establishes that these guys are here for one thing and one only. Getting pussy.
Yeah.
So,
I am pregnant last 5 weeks, so can I start sex?
they're out late, and they come back past curfew for this hostel, and they can't get back in, and they get saved by this random guy on a fire escape. Brings them into his room. Not sure if it's in a hostel or if it's just his apartment. But the guy is really cool, and there's people fucking in his room, and
it's a good vibe.
It's a good vibe, and he mentions to them, oh, if you really want to get pussy, you know, you shouldn't go to these hostels. These are, like, played out. Go to Slovakia.
Yeah, you got to head to the Russian satellite country, Slovakia.
Right. And there's a hostel there where it's just fantastically hot women that want to fuck Americans because they just hear that accent. They're like,
Not a lot of tourists there because Slovakia, but whoo, smoke shows all day long.
So they get on board and they board a train to go to Bratislava. Is that right? Wherever.
Slovakia.
And they're on a train. There's some casual homophobia when they meet some old dude on the train that eats salad with his hands and then makes a pass at Josh.
Yeah, and they said salad fingers.
Yeah.
Which is for those of you who may be too young to recall the early days of the internet, salad fingers, he was a meme kind of creepy thing.
It passed me by. Like, there's a lot of nostalgia for salad fingers, and I watched some of it, and I'm like,
Yeah, it's not great. It's just you know, that this was the beginning days of viral videos.
Yeah.
And they didn't quite know what they were yet. And it was a strange phenomenon.
Before there was anything. It's like HomestarRunner.com would not make a splash today.
No.
But it's fantastic.
Yeah.
David, the pedals make it move more.
Because the pedals make it move more.
So anyways, they get to Slovakia, and they find that it's absolutely true.
It's a wash.
It's a wonderland.
Tens. I mean, we're talking dimes on top of dimes, double thick dimes. It got 2 fucking nickels stacked on top of each other height.
Yeah, I almost think like an alternate title for this movie would be The Male Gaze the Movie, because it's very, very geared toward bros. And to the point where it's like almost real. It's almost ridiculous because the setup for it is so ideal that they walk into this hostel and they say, okay, you can go up and meet your roommates. And they're like, roommates? And they're like, oh, hostels. Am I right? We don't want any stinking roommates.
Yeah.
Foreigners.
Boo.
And
you know how far the dollar goes in Slovakia? Fuck you.
I know. Why would you not stay in a hotel in Slovakia?
Right.
It's probably like $2 for a 4-star. Anyways, they walk into the hostel room, and you describe how that goes down. Do you remember?
I don't specifically.
So they open the door.
Oh yeah, there's people already in there, right?
Yeah.
The girls haven't cleaned up after them, and they're showering or something.
So the girls, they open the door, and in the mirror, they see these girls like getting dressed. They're topless,
yes.
And they're like perfectly angled to where you can see everything. And
I get why you love this movie so much. It's this is just a thirst trap for Bryce. Hostel's just Bryce
It's pretty thick.
all right,
drooling all over the place.
Like I'm the only one interested in.
I mean, I have big tits and a tiny vagina.
Oh man.
Every red-blooded male is going to enjoy this.
Thinking about,
am I pargant?
Can I get anyone here pregnant?
So
Or
they come in, and like the music behind this moment is like harps. So
Yay, David!
It's
Yay!
literally like portraying heaven. It's so over the top of like, this is perfect.
Some would say it's a misogynistic view of women.
Sure. Some may say that.
Some. And that we're misogynistic.
You could say that. I mean, I'm not going to not deny it in this moment right now. It's pretty hard to...
Do these people watch horror movies? Why are they watching horror movies?
Why are they listening to a horror movie podcast?
Right. I came here for serious discussion about Hostel. I'm stupid. You're stupid.
Ew, David.
So, and then as the girls like finish getting dressed, they start going out the door and they're like, we're going to the spa. You should join us. Come join us at the spa. We're going to be naked.
The guys are like, oh, sorry. And the girls are like, shh, this is Slovakia. Everybody show titty here. It's like, okay, cool. In fact, we go to sauna now. Have hot time. Ooh, so hot.
In Soviet Russia, titty want to see you. So they go to this spa, and of course, like the girls are topless, and they're like, nudity. And the Icelandic guy is like showing off his shorn balls. See, this is where we show our wokeness. Like, I wanted to see all these balls.
I did too.
It's literally like a cock tease. Like they're teasing his cock to us. Saying like he's manicured. I mean, we have a close relationship with Manscaped. We
First question I had was, does this man have a subscription to Manscaped? Is his Lawnmower 3.0 trimmer, does it have a new fresh blade on it?
It must.
Because you can replace the blade and you can subscribe to Manscaped using the code HMT at checkout to get 20% off on free shipping to get new blades sent to you every couple of months.
Sure.
So that, you know, because that's what I was wondering when this guy was flashing his dick around.
Yeah. They didn't show any of it. We were just like left to use our minds to envision Icelandic balls.
It was cruel.
So anyways, they're really into it and they like party. And this is like literally like the first 40 minutes of the movie.
It's great.
Is basically this. Establishing very well that these girls are like, you know.
I feel like there's alternate versions of this movie that don't end the way this one did that are just as fun to watch.
Right. Yeah, there's some kind of website with hub at the end. I can't. Anyways. So then after like the first night of partying, so let's see, Paxton and Josh kind of hook up with Natalia and Slovakia girl. What's her name? I wrote it down somewhere. Natalia and
Doesn't matter.
Svetlana.
Okay.
I got it. So they group up with them, and then Ollie groups up with the receptionist at the hostel. And the next morning, like, Ollie's not around. They're like, where the fuck is Ollie? And they are trying to figure out where he is. They're leaving voicemails. They leave a note at the hospital, and they're like, you know, he's not here. Fuck him. He's probably at that chick's apartment or whatever.
Yeah.
He'll find us. We'll leave a note.
It's a reasonable... All of everybody's... Everything is reasonable.
Right.
It's all assuming reasonable things.
I'm really curious about what the things are that Tarantino pointed out as like, that's not normal.
Watch Cabin Fever. You'll see them.
Okay.
You will see them.
Yeah.
You'll go, oh, okay.
Because in this situation, you could immediately go into very, very worried territory of like, where's Ollie though? Like, maybe something terrible happened.
Right.
Like, we haven't, why isn't anyone telling us about it? It's like, no, it's just like, whatever. He'll figure it out. We'll meet him later.
Right.
And so they go off and start doing their thing. And this is the first like glimpse we have of something nefarious is happening, because we see Ollie's severed head in this dank, moldy dungeon
Yeah.
scene where a guy is like cleaning up and whistling. So we know that Ollie's dead.
Right.
And as they're out, they visit, as one does, a torture museum.
As you do.
And they see a guy with Ollie's jacket. Like, hey, that's Ollie's jacket. There's only one of them, apparently.
Well, it had a specific patch on the arm. It was a certain color.
I didn't even notice the patch. But yeah, they followed after him. It looked like the back of his head looked like Ollie for most of it.
It's almost like it was the same actor.
Yeah. Huh. And so they chase him down.
But he was dead, so it couldn't have been him.
It ends up being some other dude. And have you ever been to a torture museum?
No, sir. No,
or
I have not.
Any kind of exhibit that showed like medieval torture devices?
No, but I'd buy that for $1.
I've actually surprisingly seen a couple. Like, this is a thing. So I'm trying to think. So one would be, have you ever been to medieval times?
What the fuck is going on? What has happened? No,
have you ever heard of medieval times?
Like in the Cable Guy?
Yeah.
I guess through the Cable Guy.
Yeah.
I'm just like the Cable Guy. All I know about real life is stuff that I learned through TV and movies.
Anyways, medieval times actually exist. Or if you go to Vegas, there's Excalibur, which is a very similar experience.
What is medieval time?
Medieval times is literally like they put on...
They reenact
like a jousting tournament among these
while
knights.
While you
dine, and you dine
in the round.
Medieval style, which is... They just bring out like a whole roast chicken like a little mini roast chicken.
They make sure you don't wash your hands beforehand.
Right. And you don't have any utensils. You just have to use your bare hands to rip apart this chicken.
Oh, wow. That sounds... Wow.
Jesus Christ. Why is that one so loud?
I don't know. But it's appropriate.
It's the scene in Cable Guy is very, very authentic.
Oh,
where it's like, in medieval times we didn't use utensils. And he's like, well, in medieval times did they have Pepsi? And she's like, man, there's a lot of other people I got to serve here. So it's like that. So you watch the show and
Where is this? Is this a one place or is this a chain?
It's a chain.
Where? What?
I don't know. There's not one around here.
Okay,
I remember.
I'm looking it up. Keep on.
I went to one in Texas. I'm sure there's one in Vegas. There's, well, I guess Excalibur would basically take that.
Wow. Orlando, Chicago, Atlanta, Dallas, Buena Park.
It's fun. I mean, it's a fun experience. So anyways.
All those first ones were like, yeah, okay, so this is an East Coast Southern thing. And then this Buena Park, California. Okay, go on.
So anyways, as like an offshoot of this, before you go in, they have like some exhibits out there and like merchandise that you can buy. Because I don't know if we mentioned this before, but I had like a sword collection when I was a kid. I'm not super proud about being a mall ninja when I was a youngster.
Ew.
But
Ew. Ew, David. Ew, no, David.
I still like the idea of swords. Swords are just cool. It's one of those things where it's like...
You don't have the appropriate amount of shame about this.
Like, when you ask like about anime or Japanese culture, and you're like, well, why are they so obsessed with like mechs and like giant robots? And you're like... Because they're fucking cool. What's wrong about giant mechs? They're awesome. That's my deal with swords. It's like, have you ever held a sword? They're cool.
If there was an argument for swords, that's it. Have you ever held one? And the person goes, no. And you go, well, that's the fucking problem, idiot.
Anyways, as an offshoot of this, they had like
get you a sword.
They had an exhibit that showed different methods of torture. And it's so horrifying that it's like weird that it's there in a family entertainment environment. Because it's literally like, okay, so it's very simple. You take this cone, which starts out at a point and then widens out to the size of a stool by the end of it.
I see where this is going.
And you just have someone sit on it.
We need a shirt just like Dr. Oh, man. Dr. Drew, This just says don't prolapse your anus.
Right. So like, yeah, just like horrifying, like, stuff like going up their ass and like ripping apart their innards and like taking intestines out and reeling them out on like a spit, or just genuinely horrifying shit. And you're like, holy shit, people did this to each other. Like this was like legitimate punishment and actually entertainment.
Well, it was just Thursday, really.
So I've seen stuff like that, and it's in like, if you go to Madame Tussauds, sometimes they have an exhibit like that, or if you go to like Tower of London.
I feel like you lived this other life that I have no idea about.
I just like torture. What can I say?
Okay. Well, everything's coming together.
You can see why I gave this a 10 out of 10. So, so they go and they find the guy, and it's not Ollie.
Not Ollie wearing the jacket.
And they go out to, oh yeah, did you notice that when they left a note that the room number they left?
Oh, was it the Shining room number?
Yeah,
227?
237.
237.
Anyways, they keep going out. They go out again on the night, and then it's like kind of a little more like the girls are slightly more cagey.
Not just more cagey, but less interested.
Yeah, less interested. They're a little more cagey. They're like speaking in a foreign language instead of English to them. And it feels a little weird. I mean, the previous scene we saw with them in the disco, like the girls were like feeding them pills and stuff. So it was like, yeah, these are awesome girls. They give us sex and they give us drugs. Like, what's not to love?
Yeah, it really does. It does a good job of like never doing the thing you necessarily expect right when you expect it. So like you felt like something nefarious was going on the first night in the club when the girls offered them drugs.
Right.
And you're like, okay, well, they're going to doing drugs in horror movies is just not a good thing.
Right.
But it turns out it's a good night, and then it ends in fucking hot, sexy sex.
Yeah.
With just dime on top of dime. Just beautiful nickels stacked. Ugh! Anyway, so it does a good job of subverting your expectations.
So this time they start getting really inebriated and kind of like not feeling great. And so Josh and Paxton split up. Josh goes back to the hostel. He's like, I can't do this anymore. I got a headache. He goes back to the hostel, and then Paxton goes to the bathroom, but ends up getting locked out of the bar or something, or get locked in some like closet or something. And we follow Josh, and he gets basically kidnapped. And this is where it switches gears.
Yeah.
Because now we see when Josh wakes up, he's like, has a hood over him, and you can see he's in this dank, weird dungeon-like room. This is like straight out of Saw. Like it's the Saw took place in the bathroom of this place. So,
yeah.
So, and he looks around the room, and there's just tables full of torture implements, and some guy comes in with another guy, and he's like, proves that Josh is American.
No, that's when Paxton.
Oh, that's right. All right. That's right.
This one leads, and this is another example of subverting your expectations.
Oh yeah, because this one it shows the Salad Fingers guy.
Right, Salad Fingers walks in, and you're like, oh shit, this is under his house. This is like Salad Fingers' goddamn house.
Right.
And he's a torture guy. He just lives to torture people. Mm-hmm. And he's got it, and he's set up shop here in Slovakia. And then he fucks with him really intensely.
So there's some really intense scenes, like he takes out a drill and starts drilling holes in them and stuff.
That was very unpleasant.
Yeah, this is one of those things where it's like you kind of notice the technique and you're like, okay, that's actually, it's not showing a lot.
Right.
But it's very effective, because the most like extreme version of like if you were to show someone getting a hole drilled in them with a drill bit would be a wide shot where you see the guy
come to my house while I'm doing some woodworking project and then watch me freak out.
would be showing the guy holding the drill and the guy getting drilled in the same frame, you know, while the drill's going into his body. But this is like, it literally is just a close-up of, you know, you can't even tell if it's like his leg or his arm or anything.
Meat.
It's just a piece of fabric that drills through and there's blood and guts that are on the other side. So, and then probably one of the most intense effects is when the guy like cuts him a couple times. He's like, all right, you're free to go. Do you remember this part?
Yeah.
And he gets up. He's like, okay. He gets up to go, and he realizes his entire Achilles tendons on both legs are sliced through, and it's a close up of that. Yeah, that is one of the most disturbing images. That and the eyeball getting cut off are the most like gory scenes of the movie, where you're like, Jesus Christ. But it's super effective, and it gives you enough like space in between them.
Kids, your father's going to be just fine. Okay, everybody, put on your corpse handling gloves.
So we know that Josh is dead. Like he's a goner. And then it goes back to Paxton, and he wakes up in the bar, and all of a sudden, like, okay, now both of his friends are gone. And so this is where like, he's like, what the fuck is actually going on? And he goes back to the hostel, and they had checked him out of the room. They said, oh yeah, you called earlier in the day. It's like, no,
you're checked out, buddy.
Like, no, I didn't. I've been locked in a room. Like, how could I check out? He's like, all right, so don't freak out. We'll get you another room.
Yeah, don't worry.
And this is like the realization moment, because he goes up to the new room, and the exact same scene plays through with the girls. Like, he sees them through the perfectly placed mirrors as they're getting dressed, and they leave the room. They're like, we're going to the spa. You should come with us to the spa.
And he's like, huh.
And
that's not necessarily normal, but okay.
But it's two different women. That's the important part, right? Is that it's not Svetlana and Natalia. It's two other chicks. And you're like, wait a minute.
Right.
And so he realizes something's going on, and he finds Natalia and basically like browbeats her into like, I'm sick of this shit. Show me where my friends are. And she's like, oh, okay.
You want to see? I show you. Fine. We go.
He's at an art show. Like, we can take you to an art show. And this is where it's really interesting, because the previous time you've seen the girls, like, they're slightly more off-put, or they're more distant, and they're like not acting as like just completely 100% DTF.
Yeah.
And then now when you see them, like, it's very subtle. They literally look worse. Like, they look tired.
Right. Well,
in these scenes, because like the makeup isn't as good. They look like much more, you know, dark circles under their eyes. It's subtle. It's not like they look ugly.
No.
But it's very subtle. Like, it goes from idealized porn version of Slavic women to Slavic women.
Oh man.
So
horror.
It's really subtle. And then they take them to, you know, the supposed art show, and it's just really off-putting, because she's acting weird. She's more impatient. She's like, all right, I'm sick of this shit.
And they get there, and this place is just it's just an old abandoned industrial building.
Yeah, it looks like a former nuclear power plant or something.
But there are definitely people there going in and out. Commerce is occurring. There's a ticket booth that's like, hey, what's the cost to get into this fucking art show? And the guy's like, for you, my friend, free.
Yeah. And he asked one of the patrons coming out, I was like,
how is it in there?
What's it like in there? And he's like,
be careful, man. You could, and he leaves it hanging on, be careful. He's like, be careful in there. You could spend all the money you have. He's like,
yeah.
What? Oh, okay. I guess it is an art show. I guess art is abnormally expensive.
So this is a bit of trivia. That Asian guy that he talked to that told him that.
Is that James Wan?
That is the director of Audition. So Audition was an inspiration for Eli Roth, which I've heard several times, like, you should see Audition. And he said one of the reasons it was an inspiration why he tried to emulate it is that it starts off as one thing and ends as another. Like, it's not like 100% horror movie. It's like, it's got a whole story. Anyways, that director was that Asian guy coming out of the place. So they go in, and like the part that sticks with me from my original viewing, what I remember about this film was as he's getting dropped off, Natalia laughing.
Right.
Just like she knows something that he doesn't.
Yes.
And that was so, for some reason, that was like one of the most disturbing parts. It was like, oh,
what's happening?
Something's very, like, that he's being preyed upon, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting the way this movie sets itself up, right? Because he knew it was going to create a splash and there was going to be talk, but he named it Hostel. So you're thinking, oh, this is going to be a bad thing that happens at a hostel. But you're thinking Hostel. And then
when you watch the trailer, it doesn't show anything about the first half of the movie. It's literally all shots in that basement, like, torture chamber area where it's very obvious that, like, this is like Saw, this is a torture porn horror movie.
But then there's a lot of very clever sleight of hand to keep you like, wait, what? Wait.
Yeah.
Huh? Wait.
And levity. We didn't even talk about the little gang of little kids.
Oh yeah, the little gang of kids. They're one of the coolest characters in the movie.
Yeah.
There's a little gang of little kids who are pronounced legitimately very dangerous kids, like, because
they're the most dangerous part because they don't give a fuck.
They don't care about anything. We don't care about anything. Lebowski, we're nihilists. Yeah, and so you always give the kids what they ask for because they will fuck you up.
Right. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff mixed in here. Moments of levity, like titillation.
I think we've covered that.
Did we?
Ew, David.
Can I see one titty?
Yes.
Good cut.
So now he's caught in this thing. Like, he gets clobbered over the head, and all of a sudden he's in the chair, you know, bolted to the ground. And we see kind of like, this is where the banality of evil comes in, which makes it more interesting to me.
Yeah.
To where...
Yeah, that he almost sets it off as being far more disturbing.
Right. Because you realize, like, oh no, this is not like the German guy's house. This is like a whole warehouse.
It's a whole hostel for people.
For people to torture other people.
Right.
Because he's walking through and he's looking at all these scenes of torture and stuff happening. He's like, what the... Oh, wait, that's after. Anyways, so this guy's brought in, and it's very obvious that this guy, like, paid money for this experience to torture Paxton.
Right.
And he paid more because he was American.
Right.
And, I mean, from that point on, it's scenes of, like, torture and, like, showing you the scope and scale of what's going on in this warehouse. Paxton escapes, of course, in a pretty great scene. How did you feel about the chainsaw scene?
Oh, yes. I'm trying to remember exactly my thought process. Okay, first of all, the chain was on the saw. That's a lot of movies will show you chainsaw scenes without the chain on the bar. And it takes me out because there's no chain on that saw. You need... The bar doesn't just cut. There's a chain that wheels around it. So that was realistic. I used to use chainsaws a decent amount for my job. Anyway,
how sharp was the chainsaw, David? Could you tell?
Sharper than any chainsaw could ever possibly be because it cut people like a lightsaber. And chainsaw wounds are ghastly, gaping, massive maws of just flesh torn apart in... It doesn't look like a knife cut. It looks like an explosion happened within your body. And, and lots of... But anyway, it was crazy. And you know, the one thing that wasn't real about it was the chainsaw's throttle got stuck when it landed on the ground, and it just kept, you know, which maybe, I don't know, maybe it was a shitty old chainsaw that had been used to cut dozens and dozens of people apart. So who knows?
I knew you'd have insights on the chainsaw because I had to ask.
Yes.
So yeah, this is another, like, it doesn't take much for me to really respect a movie. And this is
yes, it does. It takes a tremendous amount.
No, it's like little touches. Okay. Like the little touches add up to where, like, that is a unique moment that's perfect. So what I would say that with this is there's a chainsaw accident. He gets two fingers cut off and the handcuffs get cut off, and that's how he's able to escape. And then as he escapes the chair and starts running off, he stops, turns around, and he's like, and he picks up his two fingers.
Yeah.
And so there's this little drama with him, like, but wait, maybe I can get these two fingers reattached. I'm glad
that you're focusing on this scene specifically, because it's making me remember things that I really enjoyed about this scene that I thought this scene was going to make this movie irredeemable. I thought this was, but it turned out to be the most redeeming part of this movie, because there's lots of nuances like that piled into this one scene where this German guy wants to torture an American guy, wants to torture Paxton because he's American. And the Slovakian guard comes in. He's like, talk. And Paxton's like, what do you want me to say? And he goes, there, confirmed, American. There's your money. So that's why you're paying so much more for this guy. Okay, have fun. The German guy starts getting ready, but the German guy, you can tell, isn't psyched up. He isn't in the proper mind space to be torturing somebody quite yet.
He feels kind of weird about killing someone.
You can tell that he's going through something in his head.
And he's excited, though.
He's excited, but he's also got to psych himself up.
It's like nervous energy.
It is a lot of nervous energy. And at some point, he gives too much of himself away, and he says something in German. At this point in the movie, it's been established that Paxton can speak fluent German. Paxton starts talking to this guy in his native language. He's like, look, you need, like, he just starts talking to him in German. And this fucks with the German guy. Yeah. The German guy's like, oh, God damn it. Now I feel empathy for this kid.
And he stops and he leaves the room.
There's a beat, though. Before he stops, he's like, am I gonna not torture this guy? Do I care now about this guy who's taken time to learn German? He's clearly not a quote unquote ugly American in the way I thought he was. He knows my native language. And then he just throws his hands up in frustration. He goes down the hall and he gets and you think, oh, maybe Paxton talked himself out of this. Well, the guard comes back with a gag and gags Paxton so that this guy can get his rocks off killing Paxton. It's very humaning kind of feel to the whole thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, lots of little touches like that. So the fingers, the little kid gang, like all that stuff does not need to be in this movie at all. And it's like, it just shows the level of creativity.
Yeah.
And the amount of like enjoyment. You can see like the enjoyment that he got from coming up with this stuff.
Yeah.
It's very enjoyable to me.
You guys should tweet this episode at Eli Roth. See if we can get a little nod from him or something like that. It would be great, because I really do think that
if anyone knows Eli Roth, have him reach out to us. Have his people reach out to our people.
Just tweet him. Just bombard him with shit.
Oh, who knows? Maybe we'll get an interview with Eli Roth between now and the time this episode is released.
That'd be fucking great.
So that happens, and then he gets carted off, and he sees like kind of the whole extent of this operation. There's like this hunchback butcher that's cutting up people, and like this little drama of his.
He's fingers. Like the dish kid at a restaurant, you know?
Right. And you see like people hosing down walls of blood, which is kind of interesting because the entire place is covered with like mold and moss, but for some reason, oh no, we can't have blood on the walls.
That'd be unsanitary.
They just kind of lightly water it down. They don't actually like get a pressure washer on any of this shit. So he escapes, and then there's another like good moment where you see the extent of it because he finds the locker room and he meets this other American that's there to be a patron.
Another fabulous character.
Yeah.
Fabulous. I love this guy.
Yeah.
This guy was exactly the kind of guy who I would expect to see in here.
Right. And he's like asking him like how it was and what should I do? How should I kill the guy? I was thinking about doing it quick with a gun. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do it. I got to get my money's worth, And he sees, Paxton finds this business card, which is called,
something the hunt.
Elite Hunting.
Yeah.
And on the back of it, it just basically said a couple different nationalities and prices.
Yeah.
So Americans was most expensive. It was $25,000.
Yeah. Local is the cheapest.
Yeah. I mean, $25,000 seems very reasonable to me to torture and kill an American.
I guess.
I mean, I haven't really priced it out much, but I mean, my gut reaction is like, yeah, that's pretty good.
How much would you pay? This will be used against you in the court of law.
Like $1,000.
That's it?
No,
I think 25.
Just to be clear, I wouldn't pay to murder and torture someone.
I think 25 grand is reasonable.
So he breaks out, and then he finds, as he's about to escape, he hears, one of these Japanese girls that he met at the hostel, and he goes and saves her. And that's like the eye.
That was a pretty tough part.
It's very simple. Like, it just shows like a guy with a blowtorching her eye socket.
Hey man, what are you doing in here? Get your own room. I paid for this.
Yeah.
And Paxton's like,
no, David. Honestly, David, it's like a witch's house in here, David.
It's like a witch's house in here.
So they escape. They make it to the train station. There's one last like kind of moment of tragedy where she sees her face mangled in the reflection, then she commits suicide.
Yeah, but he cuts her eye off for her, which I didn't understand why. And then
it does make any sense.
Why does the pus pulse out of like your eye? The whole
thing doesn't make a lot of sense.
Your occipital nerve, as it turns out, is just full of pus. Like, it's connected directly to your brain, yes, but also lots of pus under high pressure.
Well, the pus is where the light goes. How else are you going to get light to your brain?
It's pretty opaque to let light through.
Well, I mean, obviously you don't know enough about anatomy.
Ew, no, David.
So he escapes, and then the last moment is him getting his revenge. Then, like, the last couple scenes is a revenge movie where he finds Salad Fingers dude, and he murders him in a bathroom.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very satisfying ending.
Yeah.
Very satisfying.
I mean, this whole movie, it takes you a lot of places.
It sure does.
And I can't say that anything pulls me out of it. Like, it was very engaging the whole time. Even though I've seen it, I never checked the time on it. I was like, it was a good experience throughout because it's so varied. Nothing overstays its welcome, and stuff is developing at every moment.
Yeah.
Something is getting stacked onto it. So even just like little subtle things like the girls changing slightly.
Yeah, the people are very people-y. And the little kids come into the end as well. It's a great ending with the little kids because he basically pays them off with candy to brutally murder the guards that are chasing him.
Oh yeah, there's also a scene where
they cave their heads in.
He runs over the Natalia and Svetlana with the car. That was a great moment. That was very Pulp Fiction. I mean, that's straight out of Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
So yeah, good stuff. Who would you recommend seeing this?
I'd say if you're overly squeamish about gore, then then this will work well on you. It's not as bad as but I'm almost not comfortable giving movie recommendations in this show anymore because I'm so fucked out,
I just think it's a great movie. I think everyone should see this movie if you enjoy horror movies. Like it's
a good movie for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So, let's move on to taglines.
Here's taglines.
perennial favorite tagline.
Taglines is a bit where we come up with alternate taglines to the movie we are reviewing. So I'll start.
How many do you have?
4.
Good. You go first.
Hostel. There's something wrong about this hostel. I just can't put my fingers on it.
Okay. The fingers. You lost the fingers. Yeah. Okay. Hostel. Slovakia is where women with anime proportions come from.
Hostel. Evil. Torture. And shared bathrooms.
Hostel. I'd probably sign up to be brutally murdered if it meant having drugged up sex with those ladies. Seems kind of like a win-win.
Yeah. Hostel. Still kind of worth it.
Yeah. There you go.
Hostel. This hostel is too hostile.
Boo, 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 boo. Hostel. Why is it every hostel you go to, you got to wonder where the shower is? I get there and I'm like, hey, where's the shower? And they're like, it's 4 doors down on the left. You got to go out of the hostel. You got to go into the hotel next door and knock on somebody's room to get into their shower.
I've never actually been to a hostel. That's not an experience I've had.
I have. They're fine.
How accurate is this?
You would be very surprised. Very accurate.
Hostel. It's like a hotel, but with an extra S for sex.
Save the best for last. That was a good one.
All right.
But because of the way hotel is spelled.
Yeah. That's our episode for today. Thank you for sticking out and listening to us talk about horror movies. Please, if you like the show, share it with a friend. If you want to help us get more visible, one way to do that is to leave a review and rating on Apple Podcasts. Lots of different ways you can support the show. Go to Horror Movie Talk. You can click through the buttons in the banner to either go to Amazon and buy the stuff you are going to buy, or go to our Patreon, become a patron, and get the special perks and our appreciation.
Yeah, don't listen to those commercials. Get on our Patreon. Get the commercial-free edition, baby.
So, until next time, you can give us a call at 682-253-4468.
Beautiful.
To leave us a voicemail.
Beautiful.
We'll see you later.
We love you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Looking for a podcast full of burps and gas, perverted cast, skinny and fat? Look no further. Horror Movie Talk is accidentally funny, begs to donate money, fake sponsors for dummies, and so much more. New episodes every hump day. They'll pickle your dickle for foreplay. Patreon members have it your way. Vote for a movie every month for the review. Choppa choppa, don't just stare at it, eat it like a taco. Put your tongue through the phone, hoodie, Picasso. Look at them hot kids, swear not a pedo. Got me too'd with Cosby eating jello. Pudding Pops done gave Bryce flatulence. Train addict Dave doesn't give a shit. 1 through 10, is it horrible or excellent? Oil me up, daddy, is dinner Robinson kiss. Bryce Hansen, look at them hot kids, Chris Henson. Masturbate with a crucifix, exorcist. Face huggers, chest bursters, alien. Linda Blair peed on Sigourney Weaver. I know it's true cause it came from social media. Patrick Bateman can't understand you. Stab you to death for rotten apple reviews. Opinionated podcaster with a doctorate. Spookology, doctor of philosophy. Bad gastritis, need colostomy. Turn Patreons into human centipedes. David Doobie Day, scare him, no expert. A global fucks hard, professional sexpert. Afterpods, taglines, and porno flicks. American Psycho, them guys pretty sick. Choppa choppa, don't just stare at it, eat it like a taco. Put your tongue through the phone, hoodie, Picasso. Look at them hot kids, swear not a pedo. Got me too'd with Cosby eating jello. Pudding Pops done gave Bryce flatulence. Train addict Dave doesn't give a shit. 1 through 10, is it horrible or excellent? Oil me up, daddy, is dinner Robinson. Nothing good happens in the woods. Always get more than you bargained for. Got a pickle to dickle, machines tickle bitties. Killer on the phone, ain't no Sharon Stone. Vancouver, Portland, Oregon, and organs. Corona, COVID, curse, Lorona. Green River Killer, because reasons. Hallway of poop monster kids screaming. Ain't your ordinary dingleberry itinerary. 30-day shutter and jump scares, they fucking scary. Time for the spoilers with jokes and tropes. Use their white socks to catch their loads. Just show them one titty, pretty. Paganism you should worship, they Teflon dicks. Pacific Northwest, let them see one breast. Shifty eyes stay spooky, poor man's digress. Bugsy, HMT, horror movie talk. Hold on, they don't like Halloween. Fuck them.
Can I see one titty?
Yes.